It's easy to complain that our generation has to navigate and contend with momentous change in the world. I think every generation thinks that about themselves, and it's true. 250 years ago, you would have had an industrial revolution while you're alive, and 100 years ago, suddenly everyone has a car. You know, then the internet gets invented, and phones, smartphones. But AI does feel different, and I think each step along the way feels increasingly different because of the exponential effect previous advancements have on the scale of future advancements, and that's pretty obvious. The difference with AI is this invention is, in my opinion, fundamentally inhuman and created to strip away much of what makes life worth living and much of what makes being a human so fun. It seeks to replace us, to further alienate us from things in the world, things around us. You know, that happened a long time ago for a lot of things. When you wanted a table, it used to just be made by a person who you kind of knew. And obviously, we've been alienated from our labor and the objects around us for a long time. But with AI, it obviously goes one step further. And I think contending with that is a very, very important part of figuring out what it means to be alive in today's time. And our generation needs to come to terms with what this means. Obviously, on an economic level, there will have to be major reform. And I don't have great optimism for that happening throughout history. These massive leaps forward have never really been accompanied by um, a proportional spreading of the wealth to everyone. And that's very obvious. Of course, the standard of living goes up constantly, and our lives are infinitely easier and healthier and safer than people from however long ago you want to pick. But, we can argue all day about what's fair and what's not fair. I don't think there's been a just um, distribution of the fruits of the advancements that people have made over the past few hundred years. And with AI, I don't see why there's such optimism that it'll be different. That suddenly these tech giants will want to share all their profits with everyone because now they don't need to hire these people anymore. Jobs become more and more replaceable, more scarce, and the incentive for that to turn into some utopian society where no one works but everyone gets by, uh, I'm pretty dubious. Ignoring the economics, and let's say that we sort out a world where everyone has what they need to live and everyone is comfortable. What makes us human when we're not making the tables that we use to work on, or the chairs we make to sit on, which has happened for a lot of years, but also when we're not making the copy of the ads that we use to impress ideas upon one another, and maybe we're not making the music that you know we listen to. What does that mean for us? Um, well, I personally think that it's very hard to make AI art compelling, um, particularly if you know it's AI. It is true that discernment is an issue, and figuring out what's what is an issue. But I do think there is something fundamental and extremely valuable about the experience of connecting with other humans and feeling that something that you're consuming is made by another human. Like chess players have been surpassed by a lot for many years by computers, but the most watched chess events are not two supercomputers playing against each other. We don't watch the two best chess entities compete against one another, right? We watch Magnus Carlsen play against Hikaru, or maybe Hikaru is not the second best player in the world, but we watch the people we care about. We watch people because we care about people. And that is very obvious to me and very valuable and very intrinsic. And I could argue further about why I think there is an innate value imparted upon things by the simple fact that they're by a human, but I don't think that it's that arguable. So, what does this mean for us? Or what do I think it means on what it means about how we should live and how we should spend our time and what's important? If there is inherent value to humanity and to human experience and human art and the way we can make each other feel. It's obvious to me that the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years will be about authenticity and vulnerability and leaning into to expression. I'd say it's easy to say that when I have the liberty to say it, and I'm not immediately worried about my job being taken by AI or being homeless or just unable to support myself. So it is easy for me to say, but I'm trying to imagine a world where economically we don't have to worry about stuff because I'm not I'm not an economist. I'm not a genius who's gonna solve what to do about everything else right now. But I just want to think about what to do as a person, and I think it's obvious to me that we need to make stuff. We need to share ourselves. To exist will become to express. Because if you're unable to express yourself, to share your experience and to be vulnerable with others, there's nothing that makes you different from AI. AI can pretend it's expressing itself through a mathematically generated response amalgamated from the expression of thousands and thousands of real people, but it can't actually give you a singular, new, unique answer, at least yet. When it does, I'll see what I think. Whether or not AI is worthy of personhood and equal consideration and all that stuff. But until then, to to really make your life one worth living and one worth having been lived, it's important that you figure out what's going to make your time worth it. Because I do think 300 years ago, providing for your family with the production of food and goods, building your house with your own hands, were all super valuable things, and they're just not real. I mean, they're real to some people, but in my life, that's not something that will probably ever be realized by me. Nor do I even want it to be. I don't think that's where I'll get my sense of humanity from anymore. So it has to come from somewhere. It has to come from community, from being myself to others, caring for them, and showing them who I am. It has to come from art, from playing guitar, and maybe singing and drawing. Maybe even I'm quite bad at drawing, but showing myself what I can do and showing others what I can do, and the fact that it's not great is a big part of make what makes me human. Because uh, AI can't produce its own art. Even if you ask it to make bad art, it won't be its own bad art. It'll be the sum of other people's bad art. Only you can make your own bad art, and I think we have a responsibility to do so, to impress ourselves upon the world we live in as we move forward in this really weird time. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you don't feel hopeless in the face of AI. It's very easy and very understandable. I hope you feel a pressure for sure to be more vulnerable and active in your expression of self, because that's all we really have. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.